Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I would have got it backwards. Okay. You do it, because you know how to do it.
So each candidate will have 90 seconds for their opening, beginning with candidate Bradberry.
If you thought that was confusing, you should have been here when we had 3 candidates. My name is John Bradberry. I'm running for City Council, Post 3. I appreciate everyone coming out here. I appreciate the Rotary. I appreciate the student ambassadors, St. Benedict's and Taylor Lodge. The great thing about events like this is that everybody, despite whatever differences of opinion we might have, we all care a great deal about the city of Johns Creek. We love it and we call it home. I want to make sure that our next 11 years as a city are just as good, if not better, than the 11 years we've just had. To do that, I know that we're going to have to make some really difficult choices, some important choices that could impact our future quality of life. I want to make sure that we avoid some of the pitfalls that are on the horizon that could take away from that premier residential community that we have become. And so that's really the focus of my campaign, the focus for our platform. And so basically I want to do 3 things as your city council person. I want to preserve Johns Creek, protect our quality of life, and I want to be a strong advocate for the citizens, residents of Johns Creek. I look forward to the debate. I appreciate you coming out. I hope you earn your vote, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm Vicki Horton, and like John, I'm very grateful for all of you coming out today, and for the Rotary and the students to put this debate on. I wanted to just start with a couple of things. For me, I'm not a politician, so I've worked my whole career in the business world and in government, helping cities to do the things that we need to do now and in the future. And so for me, this has been an interesting 4 months. You know, I'm appreciative that you're here. I look forward to talking tonight about the issues, getting the questions, and being able to discuss what we can do to make our city the best that it can be. Like I said, I'm not a politician. I'm someone who has skills and abilities. I have education. I have a master's degree in government. So I understand the things that maybe some folks don't. I actually train city council members and mayors on how to do their job a little bit better. So that's me. Again, I appreciate the votes I got the last time. Looking forward to more this time. Thank you.
Questions, which is about the vision for the future of Johns Creek. Mr. Hurd, if you will.
John, you want to tell us, right? You go first.
Yes.
So she won the toss, but then she got to decide however she wanted to do it.
Okay.
It's your turn. You spoke first, right?
I'm happy either way.
Go for it. Well, you heard the question. Give us your vision of Johns Creek 10 years from now, and what will it take to get us there?
So, my vision for Johns Creek is really very simple. It's really the vision that I think all of us had for this city when we first voted to incorporate. That we wanted not so much to build a big city, but we want to protect this community. For me, I believe that the greatest asset we have is that premier veteran community, our residential character. That has been the source of so much good for our quality of life. And so I want to see that protected. So in the future, I want to see that. I want to see it enhanced. I want to see it protected. I want to see it strengthened. And that doesn't mean that that has to come at the expense of our business community. I think that those two things can be complementary. We need to collaborate with our business community to make sure that the whole is in good shape. But so to do this, our first objective has got to be to lock down the comprehensive land use plan to be low density, to make sure that it's something that the residents can subscribe to, have it very transparent, no surprises. I would like to see a monthly update to the city council on the progress and update of how it's going with the comprehensive land use plan in the CAC.
Thank you.
My vision for Johns Creek really has already started in this campaign. I've been very focused and very proud of our ability as a campaign team to reach across all different factions, and we have a lot of them here at Johns Creek, and bring people together that wouldn't normally have worked together. And in fact, at a meeting we had recently, people were commenting about that if I would have told them at the beginning that they were going to be sitting and working with certain people, they probably wouldn't have believed me. For me, that's what we need to be doing in all government, is we've got to put aside all these labels, all these things, the idea that we can only work with people that agree with us. That's what I do every day. So my vision has already started, which is working together, building bridges. The next pieces of that puzzle are really, there's three key things. There's the diversity in our culture. I don't think we do a good enough job of supporting that diversity that we have with our Asian community and some of the other diversity there. But we need diversity in age. If we don't, we're going to have a big problem shortly. Balance, we need financial balance. So we need to balance out the responsibilities of us as homeowners to pay taxes with other forms of income to help operate the city. And the last item is kind of circling back to that concept of let's work together. So that's my initial vision.
Thank you. Follow-up question for you, Mr. Bradberry. I'm going to give you some figures first. The total,
Now, are we supposed to have a rebuttal, or I thought that was the format? Is it not? It's not, okay. No rebuttal? Okay.
the total tax digest for Johns Creek is $4.3 billion. Of that, 77% is residential. For Alpharetta, very, very similar. They have $4.5 billion and 68% is residential. Alpharetta has $5.2 billion, only 43% of that is residential. So with those numbers, what do you look, will it take to have economic viability as a city going forward these next 10 years with that, without growing our business community to carry some of that load?
Well, first of all, I think that the premise may be a little off. I think that our business community continues to grow. We just saw Alcon is going to make a $100 million investment in expanding their operations here in Johns Creek. I was driving down Jones Bridge and was kind of shocked. They're already breaking ground on a brand new big Sherwin-Williams store. So I know that that particular example may be a little bit small, but we are growing organically. We are growing steadily. I know that there have been some that have said that they want to see, as part of our economic development, they want to see us go from 20% commercial or business to 40% commercial or business. So that right there says to me that that's for every Home Depot you have another Home Depot. For every gas station you have another gas station. For every restaurant you have another restaurant. For every office building you have another office building. Okay? So, Johns Creek has been running a surplus every year.
Your time.
I'm not, okay, sorry. Well, we can go back.
I want a 30-second follow-up. You said it grows organically. Does that mean the city shouldn't have a plan for growth?
Doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a plan. But what I would say is that rather than focusing on making economic development a priority, we need to be proactive in preserving and protecting the residential community that is our identity and what has been our strength. We need to go with that and make it even better. And we need to do our business environment to where it is as healthy as possible so that it can be collaborative and complementary to the residential community. And I think there are a lot of things that we can do to improve the business environment.
Candidate Bradberry.
But I'll keep coming back if you ask me again.
Same question, but given these figures for our relative strengths of the tax base being overweighted to residential, is the city economically sustainable with those kind of balance? And what can we do to change them?
Sure, so in my experience, you never want to have, as I call, all your eggs in one basket. So from a revenue perspective, having an unbalanced amount of your revenue coming from one place. And so that concept of having a lot of residential revenue coming in, we've seen, in fact, we just saw it, where the county wanted to raise our property taxes to kind of catch us up, and a lot of people can't handle that. So we really need to figure out ways to supplement that revenue with other things. And I do think that economic development and the right kind of companies being part of our community is important for that balance.
All right, and as a 30-second follow-up, tell me what you mean by right kind of companies.
So we are not going to have in Johns Creek blue-collar manufacturing jobs. It's just not who we are. In fact, I was asked the question, are we going to get that Amazon project? And we don't want that Amazon project. It doesn't fit us. But what does fit us, based on the skill sets of our people, and I realized this as I went around Canvas, we have a lot of people in the technology industry that work from home. Being able to provide them with jobs and even the ability to accelerate their own companies. Again, we have a lot of startup companies and entrepreneurship in Johns Creek as well. And so
Candidate Horton.
I believe the board is up this question first. We've had some fits and starts looking at a city center for the city. And some people say that we need a face for our city. What do you feel about the city center? Is that a good idea or not? Or how would you?
I'll start by saying that the feedback that I've gotten from the residents over the last 4 months indicates that there's a lot of interest in having a city center or several city centers of much smaller size. So not the district, sorry Mayor, but not the district, but basically places, a place that folks can go to have dinner, take a walk, enjoy without having to drive very far. So kind of the 15 to 20 minute is the max. So if you look at our traffic and where people live, you probably need a couple of those. And then a great idea came up at a recent meeting I had for one of the residents of saying, wouldn't it be cool to develop these city centers in the character of the area that they would go into? And so I thought that was a great idea. So I am an advocate for that because that's what the feedback I've gotten, that people want that.
And how much of a driver should city government be in organizing all of that to happen?
Yeah, so I'm a really strong believer because I've seen a lot of communities that the city government just let it happen. They let the developers be in charge, and it doesn't work out very well. It's a hodgepodge of things put together, and so as a city, I think we need to lay out what our comprehensive plan is, and this is really critical, the zoning plan needs to go with that. because the minute the comp plan comes out, if the zoning isn't done, then you're gonna open yourself up to issues.
Same question, how do you feel about the city center, and how proactive should we be in making that happen?
I think that we should be very proactive. I think that the residents want and deserve a city center. I don't think that what they necessarily want a high-density urban downtown, but they want a low-density, to-scale city center. And from going door to door, and I know that Vicki and I shared this experience, you really do get to know a lot of our neighbors, and you get to know their stories, and you hear about kids and their problems. Our teenagers, I think, would really benefit from having a place, a community area that they could go and have fun, and, spend a little money, have a place to socialize. And I think that our seniors and other adults would also enjoy that. But again, it has to be complementary to the bedroom residential character that is Johns Creek. And so I want to get started. I want to get a conversation going. I want to bring on stakeholders. I think that we can really learn from each other, but the key is that we need to, throw our hat over the wall, so we have to go retrieve it. And let's get started.
Right, follow up to that. It's well good to throw our hat over the wall, but we're asking the development community to do likewise. So, do we have to pay strict attention to the economic viability of whatever we want to do?
So, a couple things. One, I think that Johns Creek is an attractive place for a company to want to be involved in doing business. We have educated, professional people that make a good income, disposable income. So there should be people that want to do something like that. The city can, of course, play a role by kind of greasing the skids to encourage where particular kinds of development can take place. Thank you, It's like catch-22. You tell me to stop, then I go there, and then he calls me back.
That was the follow-up question. Right?
Okay.
You have a shorter time on it.
Okay.
But don't go far, because you get the next one. I'm going to make a wild guess and say the biggest problem facing the city is traffic. Amazing! I just pulled that out of my hat. What do you suggest in the near term and the long term as a solution?
So, I have been advocating for us to do some things that we could do right now, that we control right here in Johns Creek, that would make a big difference on some of our major corridors. Along 141, we have the ability to do a lot of things. We should improve the timing of the lights. And I know that's kind of cliche because always it's said, but let's just face it. We have invested in the intelligent traffic system, but it is not working the way it should or that we would like it to. And evidence of that is when you are trying to head south on 141 and might queue up a mile and a half back all the way to Wilson Road, but yet on the opposing side streets at State Bridge, you might have 50 yards of traffic. Because obviously that should be reading that and should be sensing that and should be flushing out those cars. But there are other things that we could do. Dual access lanes to head through the intersection, not just right turn only. That theoretically could improve the throughput 50%. Making more turn lanes at the side streets. That would enable more cars to get on and off of the main thoroughfare faster with less red light time for that main thoroughfare. I mean, think about the impact that traffic has on our economics. We talk about economic development. Economic development is endemic. It is indicative that you have something that you have to make up for that is a headwind in your
Candidate,
environment.
your time is up.
one follow-up. And we've had this conversation before, but I've been to the transportation center. It's monitored by computers and visually. The streets are synchronized, but it's an east-west road. You can only synchronize in one direction. So usually in the morning they synchronize them this way and synchronize the other. So it's really just turn lanes, a viable situation.
All right. So here, I hear what you're saying, Patrick. And then for everyone in the audience and people that are going to watch this video at home, do you believe the computers or do you believe your own personal experience when you're traveling up and down the corridor, going up and down 141 or State Bridge? I would say that the evidence suggests that we could do better. And so all I'm saying is that if we have to prioritize our spending, if we have to husband our resources to make sure that we are putting more into getting the very best, or if we don't have...
Can't have Bradberry.
You want to say this? Sorry.
That's fine.
Same question. How do we address our traffic congestion and what near-term fixes and long-term solutions do you see?
Well, as part of the T-SPLOS, we do have the Tier 1 projects that are going on. Some of them are already started. Those are meant to take and alleviate some of the issue. I have toured the traffic center as well, Hatcher. And the one thing that the experts there have told me, and I've heard this from other traffic folks around the country, the biggest issue that we have, and anyone does have, is the human factor in the driving. So when people are driving at a red light, they look at their phone and then they don't realize that the light turned, and then instead of flowing 10 cars through the light, they only flow 2 cars through the light, and so that backs everything up. So, you know, there's some creative things that other communities are trying to do around trying to keep that human factor focused on driving, and so I would try to take a look at some of those things. And you know, in the future, we do think, and I've done some studying on this, the autonomous vehicle is a real thing. And so, in fact, you see if you buy a new car now, they're already being able to drive themselves. So that will probably also affect us and our traffic and how we deal with that.
But realistically, how do we deal with the human factor? I mean, people are using their phones more. So
Yeah. I've always been an advocate for when you're in the car driving, your phone doesn't work. Now, I know it's a little bit militant to have that like that. And if you have an emergency, you need to be able to use your phone. But I think all of us need to take a look at what we do. And I'm a culprit as well. I mean, I will be driving, and when I'm at a red light, I'll hurry up and look. And I think we really need to stop doing that. It's really also a safety issue as well.
Okay. Stay where you are.
Okay?
The city is committed to collecting T-SPLOS tax dollars, somewhere around $85 million. Aren't we committed now to do the projects that are in that Tier 1, 2, and 3?
From the research that I got some information from the ARC when I met with them a few weeks ago, or it's probably a month ago now. And it looks like we do have to do those Tier 1 projects. But I think the Tier 1 projects, at least the list that I've seen, are not the most onerous of the projects. They're prep projects to get us a little bit flowing, a little bit better, turn lanes, some widening, and it looks like we do need to do it.
I've heard your comments on the T-SPLOS, and let's get that on the record. Are we committed to doing the projects as they are laid out in Tier 1, Tier 2 And if we have any money left here for,
So as a resident and as a voter, and as someone,
I want it as a councilman.
okay. Well, you'll get it as all three then.
Good.
My understanding was that we were putting something on the ballot to the voters of Johns Creek and Fulton County that said, do you want 0.75% of a penny in additional sales tax to go towards traffic relief and transportation projects? We were also told that the concepts and plans of the individual projects would not move forward unless they were voted on affirmatively by our city council. So I'm a little bit confused because one thing that I thought that we were on the same page about is that we were both opposed to widening 141. 141 widening, that is something that I think is not in our best interest. I think it's going to bring more traffic into Johns Creek. I also believe that since Peachtree Corners is not going to widen and has no plans to widen their part of 141, I do not understand why in the world we would do something like that that is not in our best interest. And if I'm elected your city council person, I expect the city council to be held accountable and to take a vote up or down on the widening of 141.
Okay. And again, the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 projects are those that the vote referred to. Isn't it true the city has the right to order some of those projects, but they are committed to doing tier 1 and tier 2, and if money left, tier 3?
Absolutely, that's true. And I would like to see, as we are in tier 1, that we do those projects to the very best that we can, to the very highest quality standards, so that we are making sure that the impact we are making in terms of sound disturbance, landscape, loss of privacy, that we are taking care of our residents that are directly impacted by these projects before we move on to the other projects. Because I feel like that is a contract with our residents, and it's very important that we honor that.
And now I'm a little lost there. Are you up for this, John, or
That one is section
no, Barry, who's turn it?
2. We now,
John, right?
yeah, on section 2.
Yeah, the section 2 had already started, it was about current events. So, yeah, that question about traffic congestion was part of section 2. Yeah, this is the second. Is this the
So,
second?
yeah, we're good. Okay. We are an aging community. We have a lot of tweeners, as we call them, families where the parents are taking care of the grandparents and the children. But do we need to be proactive in getting the type of housing that will attract millennials when they graduate from college? They'll come back here. And also housing that will allow people like our teachers, our police, and firemen, firefighters, to be able to live in the city as well as work.
So this is maybe an issue that maybe my opponent and I are divergent on the most, workforce housing. I believe that the market is going to continue to come to us with new and better options to satisfy the market needs that are there. At Bellamore, you're starting to see some very unique designs. I think they call it the motor pool home or the motor home. Not a motor car home, but a motor, I'll have to go back. But anyway, my point is, I do not believe that we are absent workforce housing in Johns Creek or next to Johns Creek. I mean, if you go just over the river on State Bridge, I mean, there are all kinds of apartments and other homes that are in a lower price bracket. I bought a townhouse when I first moved to Johns Creek in 1999. I bought it for $105,000. Today it's worth about $165,000. And the price has been very stagnant, and that tells me that the demand is not outpacing the supply for homes like that. Where would you locate workforce housing? I mean, whose neighborhood or home are you going to devalue first? So, you know, I think that we have those things in Johns Creek, but again, I don't want to do anything that's going to take away from what's made us great, which is that premier veteran community.
Same question, what do we do to attract our children when they come home from college, to stay here and make a life? Or, as he said, affordable housing for our teachers, our firefighters, and even our wait staff.
Okay. As I opened up earlier, talking about diversity and diversity in age, communities all over the country are dying out because their residents are getting older and older and nobody's new is coming in, and new being young. So for me, I do think it's important to have a diversity of age groups and not just give our people who are retiring opportunities to go to more affordable housing. And I want to classify this as it's affordable housing. I didn't say low-income housing. And I don't classify it as workforce housing because I kind of think everybody in Johns Creek who's not retired is working, right? So we all have workforce housing. So it's really affordable housing. And it's critical to have that. If we don't have that, there's going to be a big bubble that hits us probably in about 10 years where people are, they're 60, 70, 80 years old now. You see this when you go canvassing. Not just the people who vote, but the people who don't vote, you still can get their data. And we have a lot of people in that age bracket, so we need to figure out what to do and to give them options for living here, as well as the millennials.
Here's a fun question. Johns Creek was recently named again as the safest place to live in Georgia and one of the top places in the United States. We all like that. How do we maintain that position?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think we are one of the safest places to live. Sometimes they can be skewed, but I think in our case that's not the case here. Really making sure that we've got our first responders, our police, and our fire, and give them what they need to be essentially world class, if you want to call it that, where they are the leaders and other communities benchmark us for how we're managing ourselves there.
Our next question is on a similar vein, and you might have covered it, Mr. Gordon. No, well, no, you're going to get it.
Okay.